Hello and welcome to the program which looks at the Holy Land. I am Paul Calvert. Psalm 122 verse 1 from the New King James Bible says this: I was glad when they said to me, let us go into the house of the Lord. I'm with Akiva Ariel from Be'edeinu. Now, Akiva, what is Be'edeinu?
Be'edeinu is an Israeli NGO founded a bit more than 10 years ago. And the idea is to promote and to teach the Israeli society and the whole world about the importance of the Temple Mount to the Jews, the history of the Temple Mount, promote Jewish ascendance to the Temple Mount, and fight for Jewish rights on the Temple Mount.
How important is the Temple Mount for the Jewish people?
The Temple Mount is the most important place for Jews in the world. This is the place where the foundation stone of the world, where according to Jewish belief, is where God has founded the world from that rock. The foundation stone was on the Temple Mount. Later after that, Abraham brought his son Isaac up to a sacrifice on the Temple Mount. Our father Yaakov also had his dream on the Temple Mount with the ladder with the angels going up and down. More than everything is where we had two temples built and destroyed by our enemies. And from there we went out to exile for a very long time.
And now today you've got the two mosques built on there, and there's something called the status quo. What is the status quo?
So actually there was one mosque on the Temple Mount. It was Al-Aqsa Mosque in the south. The Dome of the Rock is not a mosque. Even the Muslims say that. After the 6-day war, Israel had redeemed back and returned to the Temple Mount. Moshe Dayan had established an agreement of what's so-called a status quo, where Muslims can pray and Jews can only visit. He did not really believe in any importance for the Temple Mount. He said, why do we need this Vatican? He didn't believe it at all. As times came back, it continued. After that, Jews have forgotten because they didn't teach about the Temple Mount. No one spoke and learned about the Temple Mount. Jews have forgotten all about the importance. Jews have stopped visiting the Temple Mount. Also for religious reasons, there were rabbis that said that there's Jewish law problems of ascending the Temple Mount. So people stopped really going up. Today, as we know where Jews are allowed to walk by Jewish law and we return to the Temple Mount, we want to pray and to practice our Jewish law on the Temple Mount. If a status quo is supposed to be something that freezes a situation and not to have changes, that's not what we see on the Temple Mount from the Muslims' side too. The Muslims, as I said, had one mosque. In 1998, they dug out a huge mosque underground in the south in what's called the Solomon's, like the different place over there in the south. Under the ground, it's called in Hebrew Urvot Shlomo. And they built a huge mosque over there, digging out the land and throwing it into the garbage instead of doing archaeology search. They built another mosque just underneath the Al-Aqsa Mosque in what's called the ancient Al-Aqsa. That's one of the south gates, ancient gates that Jews used to enter the Temple Mount from the south, from what's called today the City of David, which was actually ancient Jerusalem. And in 2019, they even broke into the Golden Gate building from the inside and established fourth mosque. So today there's 4 mosques. They destroy archaeology. Until 2 years ago, there was even very frequently terror flags of Hamas and ISIS and anyone that hate Jews, and they would promote Jews. Even today, in their speeches of the imamim in the mosque, in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, it's one of the most radical mosques in Israel today. So there's no status quo really. There's no frozen situation. The only situation that was frozen for years was Jews not allowed to pray at all and not doing anything on the Temple Mount but visiting in very small groups. Today, with the awareness from our work and our partners and other organizations all together, Jews are more aware for the Temple Mount. Jews ascend the Temple Mount more. So also our side has slowly having changes like prostrating on the ground, prayers. We're still very limited. There's different restrictions that we have on the Temple Mount that are we're very restricted. We can't enter with any prayer book, any prayer item, any holy item, even stuff that are very special to do specifically on the Temple Mount, like the 4 species on the holiday of the Tabernacles, which according to Jewish law were commanded to have it in the first day all over, and then only the rabbis have instituted to have it also all week long of the Tabernacles, of the holiday of the Tabernacles, because it is a remembrance of the Jewish law of the days of doing on the Temple Mount. And in the temple, where over there it's actually the law, the Jewish law, to bring those 4 species every day on the holiday of the Tabernacles. And they were not allowed to bring it. Just now on this year, so many people were detained and banned from the Temple Mount for 6 months for trying to bring those species, the 4 species. There's also a big amount of people being banned from the Temple Mount for various reasons of walking slowly, not exactly obeying what the police said, not even if it's nothing that's illegal. We're not trying to do stuff that are illegal. We just want to have rights. We don't get those rights, so we get banned. So that's the difference between the Muslims and the Jews on the Temple Mount. We can only enter from one gate, just like also tourists. We can only enter from one gate, very limited in the hours. We have big restrictions on our ability to practice our religion and our holiest site in the world. And the Muslims can enter from wherever they want, whenever they want, and practice their religion freely.
Who controls the Temple Mount? Is it Jordan or is it Israel?
The Temple Mount is controlled today in a joint effort between the Israeli police and the Jordanian Waqf. It's actually the Jordanian Waqf is split between Jordan representatives and East Jerusalem Arabs and Palestinian Authority. Everybody have on the Waqf Council, they're joined together. Mostly today they run their stuff, they clean and they take care of their things. And the police are supposed to be in charge of security. So the Waqf used to walk very close to our groups and try to also prevent. They still film us, count the amount of Jews walking in to the Temple Mount. They like to say is we're provocating entering the mosque, which we're not. But that's what they do. Then they count and use it to say that we're very violent, even though we're not. And the police, they run the Temple Mount. They run our groups. They also protect the tourists and Israelis that are non-religious and don't have any religious signs and can walk around more freely than religious Jews. With religious Jews, they really escort us from the group that comes in, tells us when to go, when to stop, where to go, how much to stand, what to do, to stop praying too much, not to dance, not different things. They also run all of the restrictions around us, but they also run the security.
Are more and more Jews ascending the Temple Mount today?
Very much, very much. We see the biggest jump in the amount of Jews ascending the Temple Mount was starting an operation of protecting the walls. Shomer HaChomot, 2021, when Hamas has started shooting rockets at Israel, at Jerusalem, on Jerusalem Day. And even though there were no Jews ascending the Temple Mount that day, they still decided to open an attack. The Temple Mount was closed for 3 weeks as the operation was running. And when the operation ended with a ceasefire, Jews have returned in the amount of people that and just started going up much more. Awareness for the importance of the Temple Mount and the idea of what are we fighting about has brought people to be more curious about what's happening at the Temple Mount, about the restrictions. It makes them upset, and they want sovereignty and real sovereignty on the Temple Mount. And 2 years ago, when Hamas have started what they call the Al-Aqsa flood, the October 7th massacre, for them it was all about Jerusalem. And when our soldiers went into Gaza, they saw in each house a picture of the Dome of the Rock. It really convinced our soldiers, and they came back home and they wanted to put a picture of the temple in each house as connecting and understanding, and this huge movement of just all over Israel, people realizing that it won't end without having something happening on the Temple Mount. And it's all about the Temple Mount, and people understood that we can't ignore that anymore. So people are visiting more. We see the amount of people going up. We run a project of guides every day for over 10 years. Every day there's a guide there in the morning hours and in the noon hours. Not that it's a lot of hours, but those hours we run it, we fund it, and people go up with the Biyadenu guides. They learn about the importance of the Temple Mount, the holiness, how it's a place of peace, and how it's a place of prayer, and not a place of fighting and war like our enemies wanted. And they connect to it, and they bring their friends, and they celebrate their happy days, birthdays. Just now somebody celebrated 100 years old. Wow. So she came up the Temple Mount with our guide, and next week another guy celebrating 100, also coming at Temple Mount. Also brides and grooms and bar and bat mitzvah kids all go up the Temple Mount, celebrate their important day. People go up for their birthdays, as I said. On the holidays, people come up on the beginning of the Jewish month, which is always a celebration. So there's always a lot of people going up the Temple Mount. Every holiday, Hanukkah, just now the Ethiopian Jews are celebrating the holiday of the Sigd. And also that connects to Jerusalem directly. So that's another reason for people to go up the Temple Mount and connect and learn more and more about the importance of the Temple Mount to the Jewish history, to Jewish people, and yearning to have one day also the temple rebuilt.
That's what I was going to ask you. Are you wanting to see the temple built there in Jerusalem? And are you actually physically doing things now to get ready and prepare for the temple to be rebuilt there on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem?
We yearn for that. Obviously, that's our main desire, is that one day the temple will be built. Our organization specifically doesn't do stuff specifically talking about the temple yet. We talk about the temple. We did a different contests of people having a picture in their home and yearning and remembering. There's other organizations that actually brought red calves and they building the different utensils and stuff and that we need for the temple and furniture for the temple. We don't really do that yet because, and our focus is, first of all, we won't have a temple without two things. The first thing, we want the whole nation to want the temple, to connect to the Temple Mount. That's why we're really focusing on outgoing and outreaching, not only to our groups of people that already ascend the Temple Mount, but to the Jewish society all over Israel, Israeli society, Jewish society, Jews all over the world, Christians all over the world, anyone in the world, any person in the world, to connect them to the ideas of the temple and to want to understand that having the Jewish sovereignty on the Temple Mount is a solution and not a problem, and to want it. And the other side is we won't be able to have a temple yet before we first of all fight for civil rights. If we can't really pray freely, like without any restrictions, if we can't bring Jewish items, prayer books, we're restricted in the hours. We go up in very specific groups. The temple is a bit far still. So we have more goals that are more on the ground to connect the people and to fight for the rights. And then to bring one day, and of course, the one day we'll also get the temple, because that's, of course, our main desire about what needs to be there on the Temple Mount.
Obviously, you've got the Dome of the Rock and you've got the Alaska Mosque. Is there room for a temple as well to be built on there?
It's a good question, and we don't want to kick away the Muslims. I know other people think differently, but our organization that's more Israeli and center, we're not talking about kicking the Muslims away, more than having a place, like, if they support terror, they should be kicked away because they support terror, not because of their religion. The Dome of the Rock itself, as I said at the beginning, is not a mosque. I won't go, I guess we can't really hang on theories that say that it was one day, maybe it was built at the beginning in honor of the Jews, I don't know. But maybe we can find a way of, today people know how to, there's solutions you can do to maybe move the building itself in order to have the temple where it's at, because the Muslims have the Al-Aqsa Mosque. There's solutions. The solutions can happen. We can sit together, Muslim religious leaders and Jewish religious leaders, and speak and find the way to put it together. And then we can't enforce a solution without speaking at the end. Out of power, we can't give up our important, because it's our most important place in the world, but we can speak and we can talk together and bring the temple and get to agreements with Muslim leaders, Muslim religious leaders and Jewish religious leaders, how to have this situation really built.
Would it be important for you to build to exactly where it was last time? Do you know exactly where the Holy of Holies is and things like that, and to put it right in that same place?
That's important. Yes, like as I said, it's not like I'm not a religious leader, and I don't really talk exactly about the temple and everything, but from what I learned, the temple has its place. Like King David, when he sat with the prophet Samuel, a whole night discussing exactly where the first temple needed to stand, is on that foundation stone underneath the Dome of the Rock, which is more ancient. And the temple needs to stand on the foundation. So that's the Holy of Holies, is where the foundation stone was. And so if we go to the religious aspect, yes, the temple needs to be over there. But if we speak about what's the mosque next to it, up to 1967, in Jordanian maps, the whole plaza was called Mount Moriah. And only Al-Aqsa Mosque was Al-Aqsa Mosque. And then after Israel redeemed and returned, and the Jewish people returned to the Temple Mount, so they started calling the whole plaza the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and then they say that Jews are entering the mosque and they're desecrating the mosque. But we don't go into the mosque, we go into the plaza, which up to 1967 was Mount Moriah. So it really, like, we can be there together, we can find the situation. I think those are really questions that need to be asked to different leaders, Jewish leaders, Muslim leaders, to discuss it, to find where the place is. I obviously, as one person, even our organization, can't make the decisions for the whole Israeli, for the whole Jewish world and for the Muslim world. We can talk about the importance. We can't make the decision what exactly will happen.
Is this pioneering work that you're doing, and what's it like for you personally going up onto the Temple Mount and praying?
Going to the Temple Mount is one of the best, holiness feelings that can happen. I'm a religious Jew, so I feel the importance of it as a religious Jew, but I hear it also from other people that going up, it's a whole different atmosphere. We go up to pray, to connect to the house of God. It's the house of God. We want to connect to it. Sadly, there's interruptions from the police, interruptions less from the walk for these days, because after a brutal terror attack in 2017, and a Friday morning, 3 Israeli Arabs came out of the mosque with guns and shot 2 policemen on the Temple Mount, one at the gate and one on the Temple Mount itself. So from that time, the Waqf have forced to be far away from our groups. But the police itself still enforce restrictions that can make the visit uncomfortable. You have to walk fast, have to continue. I was just now, I was supporting one of the activists in a court that the police have accused him for walking slowly on the Temple Mount. And because of that, they're going to court against him. And it's so crazy, why walking slowly is a problem. It's a holy place. We don't want to be, why we're being rushed. That's the main thing. It's really it's a holy place. We want to come there and pray and finish praying and go home. We don't want to do any provocations. We don't want to make anyone angry. We want to pray. We want rights. And we don't get them. And when we get something small, because there's a right-wing government and the Minister of Police, the Sergeant of Police, Itamar Ben-Gvir, is in favor of people going up the Temple Mount. So then everybody jumps and says, how dare you pray going up there and make everybody upset? Where do we hear in the world that the person that's just asking for peace and quiet and prayer are the bad people? We're not the ones that attacked Israel and the massacre on October 7th because of the Temple Mount. We don't kill people for the Temple Mount. We want to pray at the Temple Mount. That's all we want.
What is your prayer for the Temple Mount today?
Hope for more people to go up, for more rights to be given to us, to be returned to us to be able to really be a part of like a holy place. If we go into specific things, it will be letting us going up in more hours, let's say later afternoon, evening when people are not at work, canceling those restricted groups. If tourists and Israelis that are non-religious can go up the Temple Mount and walk all over the plaza, why can't we? Just go, pray, and come out. Why do we need to go up with a group? Why are we restricted? Those are small stuff that can be changed and need to be changed to start giving us equal rights in our holiest place.
What's your website for people who would like to know more about the work that you do?
Beyadenu.org. We have an English website. We're even working to make it better and always reach out to English, to people that speak English, to support us in English, to learn about the Temple Mount and even book a tour with us, join our updates, join our newsletter, our WhatsApp updates in English, and really connecting to what we do.
Well, Akiva, thank you very much for sharing today.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you for joining us today. Pray that God will move by his mighty power in the Holy Land and bring his peace.